Hold on a second.
We're live. Good morning, everyone. Coming to you on a sunny Sunday morning, and got three of the team members here today on the long weekend. And we have something a little different today. We're going to do a bit of a tour of our office space, which happens to be very close to a net zero office. I think we could probably safely call it net zero. Maybe one of the few or only real estate companies in Calgary that have a net zero real estate office. So we'll a couple of us are on mobile devices. We'll take you on a bit of a tour of the property, and Michael's going to pepper us with some questions as we run through. So, well, good morning to Michael, to Sano. I'm Dan Stanty here.
Hey,
good morning, all.
So,
good morning. Yeah.
So I guess if I may, I'd like to ask the first question. When was this house built, and what are we looking at here?
So the house. So we're in the living room of the house. It was built in 1957 by the then city engineer. So there was a lot of unique aspects to the house. It was built with SIPS construction. So SIPS. So what's that called? Standing in or well, I'm not sure what the acronym for SIPS is, but they're SIPS panels. They were pre-constructed. And back then it's very common now. In fact, most of the houses that you see going up and a lot of the condominiums you see going up are built with SIPS construction. So they're panels, SIPS panels.
Yeah.
So this house was built with that, and it was kind of unique. So what we did, it was renovated in 1993, and then it was renovated again in 2015. And the intention or the goal when we renovated it, we had three goals in mind: to be sustainable, which meant a couple of things. So sustainable, adaptable, and accessible were the three goals that we had in mind when we renovated the home each time. Because we believe that that's the future of housing. With those, with those three tenets, those three pillars. And so when we renovated it the first time, we tried to keep most of the house, and it would have been, of course, a lot more inexpensive if we had just torn it down. But we wanted to keep the existing materials because that was our principle. And not only did we keep the existing materials, you can see this is kind of a mid-modern, mid-modern, and this room is original, by the way, mid-modern design. So that was pretty much just the way it was. Other than there was a big wall here, which we took out with the fireplace. So then the materials that we used in reconstructing it, if I can show you, and I'm going to flip the camera around now so that I can show you better, is so we clad the home, I guess, with old barnwood. Again, keep it in mind the sustainability and renewing, using renewable resources. So we used lumber. There was old barnwood that we used that we salvaged from barns in Portland, just for the color, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then we added on. But most of the house has really been reskinned from and we kept the original structure. Adaptable, we have adaptable spaces, and that's why we have actually the office in the home. So the office actually could be converted and used as a separate suite, or a guest room. And I'm going to enter now, so there's Daniel. So this is the office that we work out of. Kind of has a separate entrance, so it could be used as a guest suite, a secondary suite, a mother-in-law suite, or it could be used as 2 bedrooms, so that you can expand on the space. So again, the adaptable concept is, just we try to keep that in mind. Then, in terms of accessible, we did things like put an elevator in, so you can age in place.
What are, Santa, just quickly, what are the key elements of like having it accessible? Like key elements of the changes that you had to make it accessible?
to make it accessible.
Yeah, like for people perhaps in wheelchairs or with like lower mobility or whatever, things like that.
Yeah, so we ensure that all the doorways are minimum width. We did things like, I'll show you one of the ensuite baths is has no thresholds in the showers, so that easily accessible again.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like that. Less. You just be mindful of the doorways and how you enter and exit, making sure that they're wide enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Things
what are we
like that.
looking at right here? Was this an original? Was it originally 2-story?
No, this was an addition. This was a last minute addition, in fact, and we added this is a second master bedroom up here, and so this is I wanted to show you the solar collectors. So
Oh, it looks like we might have
aspect is that
dropped out of the Wi-Fi range there.
oh, okay.
I think you're back actually, Sano.
All right, have you got me? Okay, so the entire roof is filled with solar panels. There's a 10 megawatt solar electric system, and then the top roof, which is above us here, I can't if I could go on a ladder to go see it, but the top roof is full of panels, probably twice as many as you see here. So that provides the solar electric. The windows were all triple glazed, and when we kept the structure, we actually added an exterior shell to the structure to increase the insulation, and then all the windows are triple glazed fiberglass, and the fiberglass triple glazed windows are the best you can get in terms of energy efficiency, and that's because the coefficient of expansion between the window and the fiberglass shell is the same, so they never break the seal, and yeah, and such. This is the furnace room, the utility room, and this houses the heating system, and the house has essentially two heating systems. It has in-floor radiant heating, which is fed by two gas boilers here, but the primary heat is a heat pump, two heat pumps.
Okay.
And heat pumps, because they are the most efficient forced air system out there, and they're run by electric, so the solar electric can actually feed the heat pumps during most of the year. And this particular brand, Mitsubishi Zuba Centrals, they're suited for a Canadian winter. They run efficiently down to about -25. So in the past, heat pumps only didn't work that well in colder climates, but these ones do. So you got an added benefit of having air conditioning in the summertime, which again is run mostly by the solar energy.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is the solar panel here.
That's the controller for the solar panel?
This is the inverter. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So will you estimate probably about 75% of the year you're running on electric heating and cooling? Is that about right?
Oh.
50%. Yeah, it's actually about 50%. I think I'm losing my Wi-Fi here, but so I'm going to come back upstairs. Oh no, I'm back on. So the other thing that we have is a shunt efficiency system. This is actually a power conditioning system that allows you conditions the power so you use less power, and it's actually been tested to save about 10% of your electricity. So even before the solar, we reduce our energy usage by systems like that. And then, of course, all of the lighting in the house, without exception, is all LED and such. There's also additional heat saving devices such as this, which is an energy recovery for the hot water. So what it does is it preheats the hot water with the wastewater. So when you're taking a shower, for example, the hot water comes down here and it preheats the cold water that goes into the hot water tank here before it heats it up. And it heats it up, I measured it about almost 25, 30 degrees before. So instead of going to, you've got to heat the water generally from 55 to 100 and call it 110, 108, where it's at right now. So this goes from 55 to about 80 before it even gets into the tank. And then I only have to heat it from 80 to 110, let's say.
That's Fahrenheit, of course.
And so that's like wastewater from showers, from the sink,
Yeah.
from
Exactly. Shower, sink, dishwasher, anything you run, feeds to this main waste line and it just recovers it. And so if I had a temperature gauge on here, you would see that, it's like 30 degrees different.
Yeah.
And then this is all the in-floor heating. There's also which is not an energy saving device. There's also a snow melt system. And that's my big splurge. So
yeah, for the driveway as well as the walkway at the front of the house.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's energy saving for me.
Yeah.
Saves me energy, like shoveling the walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe speaks to some accessibility just in terms of limiting the amount of maintenance required on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's about that just about explains it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to.
Well, can we see
Now,
the front
when
of the
you
house?
talk about accessibility, obviously it's 3 stories, and so what's
Yeah, well, again, the elevator, and most of it on one floor, other than we have a step down to the living room, but that could be mitigated with some ramps but that was in the original design of the house. So we did as much as we could to mitigate the accessibility.
Sandro, have you ever considered like is there any advantageousness to applying for like kind of a green passive home whatever certification, LEED certification or anything like that?
I haven't, as you may or may not know. I was, well, you guys know, but we've been involved in sort of the solar gig since 1978, I guess. And when we had one of the first solar companies back in Western Canada. So I wasn't really, we did the solar just because, we didn't do it to take advantage of any grants. So there may be some available now, but I'm not on top of those.
Yeah.
I have to say, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I should say that the siting really, an energy efficient home actually begins with choosing a site, and good siting is something that we've actually asked to incorporate in the new curriculum for the real estate module. Siting, like being on a southwest slope, is probably the best site that you can get because of just the microclimate on the south slope and so on. And then, of course, where the trees are and in relation to the house also has an effect on the energy use of the house, both in the winter in keeping it warm, and in the summer in cooling it. So in the you might notice that the overhangs are quite extensive here, and in the summertime, in the wintertime it comes right in. Like you can see, it comes right, floods the room actually, pretty much right back to the back part. But in the summertime, it doesn't enter the room at all. It keeps the house cool. And then we have natural ventilation, you know, low windows down on the south side, because the predominant breeze is again up the hill, and so we'll get that windows on the low part of the house on the south side, and then on the high part of the house on the north side.
Yeah,
it's just good design.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
What's behind you there, like with this courtyard? What did you do?
Courtyard. We have a courtyard here that also has an operable shade, so that it really does. It's more for comfort than it is for solar gain, but we do use it to optimize the solar gain when you need it and to keep it cooler in the summertime. So yeah, that just does that. It's kind of a cool feature.
Yeah. So in the months, a few months ago when utility bills were skyrocketing, how you must have felt somewhat vindicated with your design.
Somewhat relieved, but I can tell you, that here's the issue, it is that, the utility companies they're well aware of this, what's going on, and the shift to solar. And we worked with a lot of the utility companies back in the 70s, like BC Hydro. The issue, what they've done is that they've increased the portion of your bill that is, distribution and your metering charges and so on. So you'll find, I'm sure everyone will notice that their metering charges and the utility, the distribution charges have increased. And that's been, a bit of a tactic of the utility companies, strategy, I'll say, of the utility companies for quite a while. It cost mega dollars to build a new plant. And so the strategy was that instead of building a new plant, they were able to get behind energy efficiency by encouraging energy reduction, put in water saving and energy saving light bulbs, because then with the same plant, they can just distribute to so if everybody reduced their usage by 30%, that means that they could, without building a new plant, they could distribute to 30% more households and charge a distribution and a metering charge. And really that's where they make a good bunch of their income is from that. So to answer your question, my utility bill is seldomly and very rarely over $100 for 4,200 square feet. But my distribution charges, my metering charges, and all of the other surcharges that are added amount to, can be several $100 up to, my highest in December was $1,000.
Yeah.
And not a lot of that was energy, like maybe a couple hundred was energy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Well, that's a great place. As the person who is able to use the office there, it's always a pleasure to use the space. And it's always comfortable in there, like regardless of whether there's a heat wave or whether it's -40, it's always constant. It's a very phenomenal system.
Well, yeah, thank you. I've noticed that too, and that mostly credited to the in-floor heating. In-floor heating is beneficial because it's low-grade heat over a large, dispersed over a large area, and so the psychodynamics of that is that you just simply feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Even with a lower air temperature, you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And it works. We were installing radiant energy back in the 70s again, and we did a lot of it. And it was so popular because it saved energy and it was very comfortable. What I notice is that I get up in the morning, it could be 0 or it could be -20. And I have to actually look, because it doesn't feel the same in the house. I have to actually go out and look to see how cold it is outside, because you really can't tell by, you don't just wake up with a chill.
Yeah.
So that's pretty great.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Can I ask, have you ever done the calculations in terms of return on investment for things like solar or any of the other energy upgrades, and sort of the time span? How many years does it take for those type of, investments to come back?
Yeah, I mean, when I did it,
Or does it?
it should come back. But they keep increasing the cost of of metering and such. When I originally did it, I calculated the 15-year return. Yeah, and I'm not sure. And so two things have happened since 2015, which is when when we renovated and put in the solar system. The cost of that system has gone. That was about 75 cents per watt back in 2015, and I would say that today, I haven't kept up on it, but it's probably at least half of that, maybe less. It's maybe in the 20-cent range now, and that's an easy number to get. You call any solar supplier, and they'll give you that. But when I did it, it was 42,000 for the solar system, and that worked out to about 75 cents a watt. For it was a 10 megawatt system. So it was a 15-year return. It should be less by now, but again, with the cost of energy, or the cost of distribution going up, it diminishes that return. If the cost of energy goes up, if the actual cost of the electricity goes up, then that really should decrease the return, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just looking at a graph here of energy costs from about 2014. There are peaks and valleys, obviously, probably related to summertime usage and heat waves and so on. But we're overall, the trend is that we are definitely over the cost of what it might have been in 2015 for a kilowatt hour of energy. So, and probably looking about 3 times the cost. So that likely going to accelerate the repayment. Although, as you say, the cost of the supply charges outside of the actual energy costs, it has kind of tipped the scales again.
Yeah, and I have. I can show you. I have an app on my phone that shows me how much I use and how much the solar contributes and how much, how much I feed back. So what I do is I feed back into the system. So maybe I can actually see that. I can't show you on my phone, but I'll see if I can actually look at my meter and see what we are.
It is it's a little tricky to see.
Yeah. Okay, let me just try a different camera here.
So is the meter is it showing going backwards today, given that it's so sunny out?
It is. So if you can see that the there.
There. Yeah.
So that the little bars at the bottom, you usually go from left to right. So right now I am going right to left, which means I'm feeding back. Because it's sunny outside. You see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see those bars moving. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of it's one of the best parts. even though the return isn't as great as it could be. Every now and then, I just like to go out and watch my meter go backwards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Have you got any koi fish in the koi pond?
Um, I haven't, but the part of the sustainability thing was that we have a wall. This wall here was actually intended, where there's a big hanging carpet, was intended to be a live wall. Part of it's a little live, but this part was intended to be a live wall.
Yeah.
And in behind here, there's a room in behind it, about a 2 foot wide room behind it, where I was intending to put where I could run the water up from the koi pond. So there's the koi pond here, and if you can see that.
Yep.
And then the water from the koi pond would be fed up to feed those plants. So it was another sustainability feature that I've yet to implement, but it's
Sounds like a summer project.
summer project. Yeah. So that's about all I got at the house. Unless you have any other questions on the energy efficiency, and yeah, it is. I would say that I think we're likely, perhaps the only solar real estate office, maybe in the country. I don't know of another one, but that's brag about.
Well, it's very cool. Thank you for the tour.
Yeah. Like Michael said, it's very cool. It is a great office to work in. Tons of natural lights. I'm actually sitting here with no lights on today, and it's quite pleasant. So,
any real estate questions that we can tie into before we sign off?
I've got one comment. Can I just talk about the media landscape in how they speak about the real estate industry is distracting and misleading. And, so like, as of a few months ago, media reports from the Globe and Mail, National Post, and others talking about, how just like, hot markets, it's just like the Canadian market is just hot. And now it's just the sky is falling on the Canadian market. And it's so misleading, and such a blunt way of speaking about such a diverse real estate market, where there are regions that are very, very separate from each other, in very different conditions on the ground in each sort of city and region. And so it's kind of distracting almost to see.
It is. It's like these reports like that are, that's like answering the question, what's the weather like in Canada?
Yeah.
And they're very misleading, as you said, Michael. And the challenge that we have is that we often respond to policy that's developed in those major centers, Toronto and Vancouver, in Calgary. So we're always kind of, we always have a headwind of battling those policies. Usually they work against us, because with the market, the market's been hot in Toronto and Vancouver for the last 5 years at least. And we did not have a hot market up until, perhaps 18 months ago. So now that we're finally starting to get going, they clamp down on the market, higher interest rates, tighter qualification requirements, and so on. And it just seems to kind of clamp down on our market just when we need that continued growth. Yeah. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Dan, what do you see like right now? What's the sentiment right now, like this for the past 7 days or so in Calgary, you think?
I don't know that the news has had much impact on the market here in Calgary. We seem to be going fairly strong. In fact, I would say probably 4 weeks ago, we saw just a bit of a dip in activity, but it seems to be coming back. I don't think that major news is impacting what we're doing here in Calgary, but it is distracting. You know, we do get a lot of just commentary about how the market is performing. You know, what a bit of a gauge that I'm, you know, this is a kind of a rule of thumb gauge, but you know, the market in Calgary has not performed to the level where people can buy homes on, you know, say on February 1st and sell them on March 1st for a significant enough gain that is a kind of an ongoing business model. Where if you look at some of the other markets, you know, people could make hundreds of thousands of dollars in doing something like that. Yeah. And so, you know, I think it's a bit of a sign that we're not in the same type of market, maybe a bubble that Vancouver and Toronto had been experiencing. You know, we're seeing some steady inclines in pricing, but it's not just not so exaggerated that that people can get, you know, in and out of the market and might be affected by the taxes that are coming targeted at those people flipping properties that way.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. There was also an article in the, I think it was the Globe Mail, that I'll be responding to. I was responding to regarding commissions in you know, across the country, and it's funny because although we can't speak about, you know, what there are no average commissions or no set commissions or no standard commissions, but there apparently is a, well, I'm not sure, a case before the courts that, you know, they're fixing commissions, and in Toronto the commission rate is 5%. Standard, I don't know, they quote this in the article, I'm not saying it is. And in Vancouver they quote, you know, it's more closer to 4%. And the challenges, and it was brought before us to see, you know, what's the deal in Calgary. And I've always maintained that Calgary is the best deal in the country, quite frankly, for consumers, because we in essence charge 3%.
Yeah.
And also the average price, you know, Toronto is over $1 million, as it is in Vancouver. And in Calgary the average price is I think around, Daniel, maybe is it 600 and
yeah, we've jumped over 600,000 now, so
6.25.
And just to say, there is no standard commission in Calgary. It was reiterated before, but
yeah, of course there is none. But I guess
everyone is free to set their own.
Yeah, but the but consumers in Calgary generally, you know, get I guess better rates than they do in other parts of the city, of the country, I should say.
Yeah,
and
just like with gas.
Just like gas, and yeah.
So like I read snippets of that article, and I've got lots of questions because I think I'm missing some key information, like on how the Toronto real estate market, how the rules are in terms of like assigning or setting or kind of forcing buyers or sellers to pay the buyer agent commission. Like I don't quite understand what they were saying in that, but I do know that it's very different than what happens in Alberta. Alberta, I mean, I don't know, it's quite fair, quite reasonable.
Yeah, and it's very competitive, and the bottom line is that you can decide, as can the buyer, because the buyer often contributes to paying that fee when you have a buyer agency agreement. You can decide that between you and the buyer, that this is what you're going to earn and this is what you're going to charge. And if the seller offers that or doesn't offer that, well, the situation can be that if the seller doesn't offer that, then the buyer tops you up, or it could go the other way. So it's very competitive and really quite flexible in that sense.
And reasonable, especially if you stack up the, you know, we had a few sort of situations where we, I guess, worked with people who had previously worked with like for sale by owner type home companies, and without getting into the specifics, I mean, it's not as advertised, working with those for sale by owner companies. It's quite expensive, and what you're getting is really, it's not very good. It's
Yeah.
like, I won't get into it, but
I think a key point there is that for consumers to be aware that there's different business models, and some business models require you to pay for the service up front before there's any performance, and other business models only require you to pay if they perform, and so you can discern that.
Yeah.
So if you pay up front, be prepared to. I mean, there may not be performance. There may or may not be the same kind of performance, and just be aware of that. And then in other business models, there's no cost to you until you're satisfied with the performance, until you accept an offer that is acceptable to you. And just be aware of that and choose what model you suits your particular preference.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and we should probably end the discussion on business models.
Yeah. Well, I think it's healthy to have it. I know that everyone gets nervous when because of the competition bureau and all that, but I think it's a healthy discussion, and as long as the boundaries, I think there's no issue in speaking about it.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's certainly wise for every consumer to be aware of how the business models work, where the costs lie, the pros and the cons of every type. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, informed consumers are the best type of clients for us, in fact.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Well, I hope you guys enjoy the sun today.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. I think we, anybody have any interesting plans for the hockey game? I'll just throw that out there as a bit of a bait.
Just watching it, I think, in the basement.
Yeah, I think I'm going to move a TV outside today.
Oh, good idea.
Because it's a 6 o'clock start.
Who's playing hockey there?
Who's playing? I think it's the Northwest Calgary Bison with Battle of Alberta.
Yeah.
Playing Lethbridge. So
yeah.
Battle of Alberta.
It's going to be a good game.
Yeah. So whoever wins, we win. That's great.
Yeah.
The only unfortunate thing is that it's happening in round 2 and not round 4. I think so that there's just fewer chances of a Canadian Cup winner. But
yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks to both of you for joining us today, and thanks to everyone watching for joining us as well on a sunny Sunday and taking a tour of our office and our home. So
yeah, and I'd like to add that if you have questions that you'd like us to address, send them in so we can fill some content. We can talk. We're an open book. We'll talk about anything, as you witnessed. And so send us your inquiries. We'd be happy to tie into them and dig up the information to your benefit.
Yeah.
Great.
Good.
Okay. Well, everyone take care, and we'll talk again in a couple of weeks.
Take care.
Thanks all.